This is Texans TV.
Coming up, we're talking about the offensive line with somebody who did it very well. Plus, we hear from General Manager Nick Caserio. It's all coming up on Texans 360.
We are ready to rock in Houston. Rock and roll.
You already know what time it is, man.
Touchdown, Texans.
I got cleats for all y'all.
He's in. Rock and roll.
That's when you think you've seen it all. There's always something else.
Let's go. They go home. They go home.
Texans 360s now, and isn't that a good thing? My name's Drew Dougherty. I'm your host, and we got Wade Smith, one of the all-time great Houston Texans, with us today. Wade, it's great to see you. You played
Always good to be here.
a decade in the league. You're a Pro Bowler. We have a lot to discuss. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's get to it.
All right, let's get to it. A little bit later in the show, we're going out and about in the community. Plus, we're talking about the offensive line because he's here. And Kamu Grugier-Hill, we're going to hear his football story. But we start with some news of the week, and the news continues to be the shockwaves and reverberations from the trade that was. The Texans sent Deshaun Watson and a future draft pick to Cleveland, and in exchange, they get 3 number 1s, they get 2 4s, as well as a 3rd-round pick. So in total, 6 picks overall, and that's quite a bit of ammo for Nick Caserio, the general manager of the Houston Texans. When you saw the final trade deal, which was announced on Monday of this week,
Yes.
as opposed to last week, what were your initial impressions?
First thought was flexibility.
Yeah.
I look at it, and Nick Caserio has always talked about it since he's been here, of being able to be flexible, opening up, being open to all different possibilities. And so the fact that you have now 2 first-round draft picks within the first 13 picks, that gives you flexibility to move up, move back, and accumulate a great deal of players in a short period of time.
No doubt. So in total, you got 2 1s this year, 2 1s next year, 2 1s in 2024. 6 guys in the first round. I mean, that can do a whole lot as far as infusing talent into the roster. 11 picks overall in this draft, 11 picks next year in that draft,
Right.
as well as the ones in 24. Texans can do some work, and a guy doing all that work, and much of it, I shouldn't say all because he's got a big staff of guys under him, is general manager Nick Caserio. He recently sat down with John Harris and Mark Vandermeer of Texans Radio and discussed what went down.
It's Texans Radio, Mark Vandermeer and John Harris with General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, great to see you.
Fellas, good to be here. Special Saturday edition.
Special weekend edition of Texans Radio. Nick, your thoughts on being able to move on after dealing with the Watson situation for over a year, finally being able to make this trade and get the Texans into 2022 and beyond?
Yeah, really the big thing. It's about moving forward, and it's about clarity for everybody. I think everybody at least has an understanding of where we are. So it's an opportunity for the franchise, an opportunity really for everybody involved to just kind of move forward.
You're a little over a month away from the draft, and you have 2 picks in the top 13. What does that do for the Houston Texans right off the bat?
It really gives us an opportunity to hopefully just add 2 good football players to our team. And I think that's really should be the realistic goal and expectation. I think sometimes there's an expectation, okay, this certain player at this certain pick, he has to be X. It doesn't always go that way, but just try to find the right players that we have a conviction for, an affinity for, that we think when they walk in our building, they're going to embody the things that we want a Houston Texan to embody. So the goal is to try to get good football players, good people that are going to embrace what we're doing, that are going to embrace our work environment, that are going to embrace our coaching staff, they're going to embrace the city and be part of the fabric of what we're trying to do and establish.
How much does it help you to get on the pro day, start getting hands-on, if you will, with some of the prospects and players, especially the underclassmen?
Yeah, I was actually supposed to go somewhere yesterday, but that kind of got derailed a little bit. So
a little bit.
I would expect this week that our staff has been on. The coaching staff was out last week. Lovey was at Georgia. Lovey was at Michigan.
Yeah.
We had some of our position coaches that were out throughout the country as well. Our scouting staff is kind of there at whatever pro day takes place Monday through Friday. They're there. So we're getting a lot of information. So it's a good opportunity. And it's pro day isn't about one particular player.
Right.
If a player with Texas A&M has said number of prospects, you want to maybe be able to look at all the prospects, not a particular one. Or there's a player that works out that comes out from somewhere else. So, he's an interesting prospect. Maybe didn't know too much about him. Let's go back and take a look at that. So I would say this week that'll take place the following week of the league meetings down in Florida. And then when we come back from the league meetings that week of the 4th, we probably have an opportunity to bring some draft prospects into our building as part of the 30-man visits, which we actually were able to start those before free agency. We did a few visits Monday, Tuesday of this previous week. So everything kind of works concurrently, so we're kind of juggling a lot of different things, but that's the beauty of this time of year, and there's a lot of fun that's associated with that.
Let's talk about guys that you brought back to the building. Christian Kirksey, Malik Collins, Desmond King, just to name a few. Those three guys.
Yeah, throw Britt in there too.
Yeah, those guys coming in. What does it mean to bring those guys back, Nick? And how valuable was it to see them for the full season, to kind of have that assessment period to be able to bring them back?
It's huge. I mean, experience in our system, specifically defensively, all three of those players sort of fit what we're trying to do defensively. I'd say Kirko and JB were probably two of the better players on our team last season, so they're very well respected. They command a lot of respect, not so much because of the words, but because of their actions, because of how they work, because of how they play, because of how they practice. I mean, Kirko went out there in a club and played when realistically he shouldn't have even been on the field, but that just kind of speaks to his toughness and who he is as a person. And really, that's a microcosm of what you want your program to embody. So to have those players back in the building to build on some of the things they did last year is certainly huge, not only for them, but for the rest of the team as well.
And you get to gather a little bit earlier as a team because you have a new head coach, but it's a head coach that's been here, so that's an extra advantage, really.
Sure, any opportunity you have to kind of get started and work with your players, you want to be smart about it and try to use it to your advantage. So I think the continuity will certainly help in that respect. So the more players we have here, the better for everybody, not just individually, but collectively as a team. And it's just about making incremental strides, incremental progress. Nothing's going to happen in the off season in terms of games played, but we can kind of build and develop the fabric of our team. And then once we add the younger players that we're going to draft, bring them in the building in May, and then let's see if we can actually put a team in place and then get them ready to go for training camp.
Nick, one more for you. Just general message to the fans here as we come out of this mini era we're in and get ready for the rest of the offseason and the 2022 campaign.
Yeah, I think we should all be excited about the opportunity in front of us. It's kind of a situation where we can kind of reset a little bit. I think everybody has clarity, and we appreciate their support. We love their support. I know Lovey, talked about the importance of the fans in our building. I think even JG said something about it the other day. He was at the rodeo and just about the environment. So our goal is to get as many fans in there in the fall, and we have to do our part and try to give them something to look forward to. So we're excited about the opportunity in front of us. We're trying to move the organization forward, and we need their help and we need their support, and we're going to do everything in our power to try to put something together that they're proud of.
All right, thanks a lot, Nick. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, so Caserio and Vandermeer and Harris wrapping things up there. 3-13. Now, he said, Caserio, hey, we're open to moving back. That's a whole separate discussion. But should they stay there, is there somebody on your wish list that you'd love to see in that spot that the Texans can take?
So there's a lot of guys that are going to be available at 3. You're in a great position where you have guys that could potentially be on the board like Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame. You have a guy like Ike Nkwonu, who's an offensive lineman for NC State. And then you got a guy like Evan Neal, 2 offensive linemen that you could pick and choose and plug in and play them very early in their careers. Those are guys that will be available. And there's some dark horse guys that I really like. A guy like Sauce Gardner at cornerback. Like, I really like what he brings to the table. He's a dominant, long cornerback. So there's multiple guys at 3 that you could pick from. But then when you go back to 13, at the 13th pick, you got guys like Jordan Davis. You got receivers like a Chris Olave. There's a lot of different people that you could get involved.
It's a sweet spot. Right?
It's a sweet spot.
I mean, there's a lot of talent right there.
It's a lot of talent. And then the fact that Malik Willis is climbing up some people's boards, that gives you some flexibility that you might want to trade out of that 3rd pick and still have a bunch of those guys that I listed still available maybe at the 5th or the 6th or the 9th pick of the draft.
Yeah, and a couple of notable things with the offensive line, draft aside, I think, is Laramie Tunsil's coming back.
Correct.
And you sign a guy in A.J. Cann who's been a starter under George Warhop, who's a very respected offensive line coach. He was coaching while you were in the league, and he's been just about everywhere. Those are 2 pretty big moves for this offensive line.
Yeah, A.J. Cann, you talk about A.J. Cann, he was a starter in Jacksonville before Warhop got there, and then he retained that job when a new offensive line coach came in there. That says something about, are you a legitimate starter, or are you just one of his guys? And then, of course, Laramie Tunsil coming back, restructuring his contract, clear up some space. with him at left tackle, A.J. Ken at right guard, you still have Titus Howard that's going to be here, you know, if he's going to be at the right tackle or left guard. You have 3 bona fide starters, and re-signed Justin Brent, another guy that's been a starter in this league for a very long time. You have some pieces already in place, and then now you can add to that with the draft.
Good stuff. Wade Smith is with us. We got to take a break. And when we come back, another one of those free agents that we've discussed, Kamu Grugier-Hill, the linebacker. We're going to hear his football story.
Favorite song right at this moment? I'm a big Rod Wave fan right now. I'd probably go Tombstone. Probably go Tombstone. We're gonna do a different one. If you could eat only one meal for the rest of your life, what would you choose? That'd be a toss-up. I love a good burger, but I could go for a really good steak. Obviously beef, probably, in different forms. Dream vacation location? I want to go to Santorini, Greece. That's been a dream of mine, or I'd love to just go explore Europe more.
Offensive lineman, funniest players on the team, and I'm not just saying it because he's next to me, it's just true. You guys are the funniest. That's right.
They tend to be that because we have clever personalities. It's part of the deal.
Wade Smith is our guest today on Texans 360. And Wade, so many free agents signed last year before the season. Many of them retained this offseason. And one of them that was a real bright spot was Kamu Grugier-Hill. And it's tough to find a lot of bright spots, I know, when you only win 4 games. But Kamu Grugier-Hill did quite a bit on defense, and he's back. I like what I saw.
Yeah, you look at there's a bunch of veteran guys that were brought into the roster last year that were signed on 1- and 2-year deals and just given opportunities to see, hey, can they find a role within this organization? And Kamu was one of those guys that had the best year of his career here with the Houston Texans, and now he re-signs. And so you bring a guy that's, you know, he's a veteran guy, but he's relatively young. And so you want to have as many guys like that on your roster that you can, that understand how things are done here. You're going to be bringing in a whole new crop of young players with the draft and undrafted free agents that are coming. You have a guy like that's going to help kind of bridge the gap going forward, and then he can build on what he's done so far with the Houston Texans.
Indeed you can. He's got quite an interesting story. Here is his My Football Story.
I'm from Aiea, Hawaii. Aiea, Hawaii is on Oahu. I grew up on Big Island, and then I went back to Oahu for high school. My life growing up was truthfully a blessing. I look back now and leaving home, you know, you appreciate the things that you grew up around and the things that you did with your family. You know, I was always at the beach, always with my brothers, surfing, fishing, diving, whatever it was. It was amazing. I played sports since I could walk. You know, my mom just had me in all kinds of different sports, had me in everything. I played soccer, basketball, everything. But actually, it's funny, I didn't play football until my junior year of high school. Kind of just fell into it, and I really didn't play at all my junior year. I wasn't the best student, so I kind of had to sit out and watch my friends play. But senior year was the one year I got to play, and I fell in love with the game. I think for football, everything about it, just the contact, just the speed, just being able to kind of be your own player and be whoever you want to be out there on the field. For me, that's what I just fell in love with. My senior year, after the season, all my friends were having like D1 offers and going to college, and that's when I realized I didn't want to be left out, and you know, I wanted to continue playing football. I was real late in the process, but I started sending film out and all this kind of stuff, and it was actually one of my friends who had an offer to Eastern Illinois already. The head coach just asked him, hey, do you have anyone else back home that can play? And he's like, yeah, come check out my boy. And so he came, took me out of class for 20 minutes and offered me a full scholarship, and that was my only scholarship, and I took it.
My name's Kamu Grugier-Hill. I'm a senior going to Eastern Illinois, and I play linebacker.
That process was definitely different for me. It's funny though, because when I went home to tell my mom about it, me and her both couldn't point where like Illinois was on a map, and we didn't really understand what I was getting myself into. I didn't even have a visit or anything. Never left Hawaii in my life, and I just get dropped off in Charleston, Illinois, middle of cornfields. So it was a culture shock. You know, the first 6 months there were rough for me. I wanted to come home, but having my friend there definitely helped. But then I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the process. I fell in love with just growing in life. People overlook how important it is stepping out of your comfort zone and doing things, you know, you're not used to, or being around people who you didn't grow up with. It just makes you more diverse. It makes you be able to have conversations with people who aren't like you. And I think just everything about that process is super important. So Jimmy Garoppolo was actually my quarterback in college. He was 2 years older than me. So when Jimmy got drafted, that really kind of opened the door for me. Scouts were coming in, and I saw that, and I chased that dream because I was like, I want to do that. I want to get drafted. Just did my thing my junior, senior year. It's kind of crazy, actually. My school is so small that I had to do my pro day up at Northwestern. I had to join their pro day. Did the pro day, and I stuck out, and the rest was history.
With a 208th pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Kamu Grugier-Hill, defensive back, Eastern Illinois.
Me getting drafted was, the biggest blessing in my life for sure. But it was still kind of this intangible thing, like no one except Jimmy from our school has done it in years. It was just what happens next, what round, how does this, where do I fall, how's all this work? My number was called in the 6th round. It was life-changing. When I first got in, it was also like another blessing in disguise because the team I got drafted to was New England. And Jimmy was there. So, I feel like God always had his hand on me. I have a friend going with me to college, and then now in the NFL, I had another friend to make the process a little easier. After training camp, I was like one of the last cuts. They were gonna try to bring me back on practice squad, but literally a couple hours, I get picked up on the active roster by Philly, and so I drive down 5 hours to Philadelphia. I ended up playing there for 4 years, and it was, we won a Super Bowl there, and it was an amazing time.
Backfield blast, Kamu Grugier-Hill.
Houston, I think, is a special place right now because there's a lot going on. We got a bunch of good guys here. I'm excited for it.
What happens up front? We'll talk about it next on Texans 360. More Texans 360, and we're so happy that you're with us. We've got Wade Smith, longtime NFL offensive lineman, Pro Bowl offensive lineman. And before we talk about players that the Texans might bring in the draft or free agent acquisitions and impact, I want to talk about the impact and your idea of what it'll be from Pep Hamilton's offense. Because the way this offensive line attacked the run game as far as blocking and pass protection, it was kind of tricky at times. That's a word you can use, and you can use other ones as well, over the last 4, 5, 6 years. How might it be better?
So I look at it like this. Pep Hamilton is a guy that really emphasizes the run game, and his pass game and play-action pass game is predicated off of what you do in the run game. Marrying him with George Warhop, you're going to see those type of guys that are going to come into this meeting room, and you're going to see those guys, the type of guys on the field. They're going to be physical. They're going to get after people up front. That's the type of guys that Warhop wants, and that's the type of guys that Pep Hamilton wants with his offense. And so he's always been a guy that has emphasized the run game his entire career when he was the offensive coordinator in the past. And so that's what you expect to see out of the Texans going forward.
Now, earlier in the show, you mentioned Evan Neal of Alabama, Ike Ekwonu from NC State. Are they head and shoulders above the other offensive linemen in this draft in your eyes?
So those two guys are up there. But you look at what the Texans have right now. You have Titus Howard at potentially right tackle. You have Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. There's a guy that's from right up the road, Kenyon Green.
Yeah,
Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. That guy, I saw him play as a freshman at Texas A&M, and I was like, this kid can play. He's going to be a big-time player. Right now, it's looking like they're prognosticating him to go somewhere mid to late first round. And so I don't know if you would take him at 13, but if the Texans were to trade back at all and you could pick up a guy like that and plug him in at left guard, he'd be a left guard for the next 10 years. He's that type of a player. And so, Ike Ekwonu, if you pick the offensive lineman at 3, that would be the guy that I would pick. I think you could put him in at left guard right now and eventually move him to tackle. And he's a very physical guy, enjoys picking on other grown men. And any guys any offensive lineman that have that mentality, I'm fans of. And so I'm a fan of both of those two guys. Those guys kind of fit that bill, and those are George Warhop type of guys.
He's a nice guy. He's dressed in a suit and everything, but he's got some nasty in him when he was on the football field, and that's important if you're an offensive lineman. All right, we've got more important stuff to get to after the break here on Texans 360. Please stick with us.
Dear Nana Eileen, I want everybody to remember how great of a woman you were. When I think about strength, I think about you. I think about the times where you smiled, even on your worst day. Your presence brought much joy to all of us, simply you just being yourself. I'll never forget the one Christmas that you gave me an iPod. That was the best Christmas of my life. Your life was a battle, but also an inspiration to all who knew you. There is not a game that goes by that I don't get on the knee in the end zone and pray for your protection over me. Knowing you are there with me in those priceless moments makes me dig a little deeper and makes me go a little harder. You had the most beautiful soul any of us have ever known. Thank you for your memories worth a lifetime. I miss you, and our family misses you just as much, and we miss everything about you. Keep flying high, Nana. I love you forever. I know you're always watching over us.
Linebacker Garrett Wallow, he was a rookie last year, looking to do great things this year. Drew Dougherty. Wade Smith, offensive lineman for the Houston Texans, went to the Pro Bowl in 2012. Freedman's Town is something that the Texans were involved with, and you had a role in some of that. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to be part of the group, the committee that was put together to try to allocate funds to various well-worthy charitable organizations throughout the city of Houston. And so the Freedman's Town Conservatory was one of them. Really cool to see all the different things that they're doing in the community and kind of telling the history of our city and spreading that message out to various people. So I was glad to be part of that and glad to see that the Texans are continuing to do the good work throughout the community.
Yeah, an excellent story, Freedman's Town. All right, that's all the time we got for this week's show. It's always good having you on. We can't wait to have you again about a month or so. Cool.
I always look forward to it, man. Just let me know.
All right.
I'll be here.
If he's not here, he's on the radio on Sports Radio 610, or he's at a volleyball tournament somewhere in the continental United States.
Indeed.
Good stuff from Wade Smith. As always, great stuff from Tyler Marcotte as well, who puts the show together. Make sure you check us out on HoustonTexans.com, the Houston Texans mobile app for more podcasts, videos, articles, and a lot other stuff. Thank you so much for the time, and we'll see you again. Until then, go Texans. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to know when we post new content.